Just to, well, thank everyone for inviting me to be here. So this is kind of an adaptation and an ongoing project, and kind of derived from something I did for the Biennale in Cuba earlier this year, called The Uprooted and the Gift Givers. The uprooted sits in his cell, looking at the laundry hanging across it to dry. As he watches the clothes gently sway in the breeze of the air conditioner, always set just a few degrees too low, he thinks about his unknowing hosts, the ones outside of this place, who might never know his name. He thinks about them drying their laundry, wonders what it might look like, and imagines what he might say if he ever meets them. He feels he would tell them a story, his story, one that has no beginning and no end, only a middle that has been beaten and bruised. He wonders what they will think of it. Will they care about the words that fall from his mouth, dry and brittle like autumn leaves? Will they collect them into little piles in the corners of their memory, or let them blow away in the wind, lost and forgotten? He waits a moment, listening, but hears no response to his thoughtful questions. The halls remain silent, save for the clanging and banging of white doors separating wider rooms and controlled by an even wider house, 2,120 kilometers away. But the uprooted has heard he could be leaving soon, and so he begins to tell his story to the hosts he has never seen. I remember a village where unripened wheat swayed green against the blue stream. I remember a mother whose unbroken back rose before dawn to bake the morning bread. I remember a chaikhana where I sat drinking cardamom-scented green tea when they came, pale-faced and sweaty, to take me. I remember a dark room where the grumble of my stomach echoed in my ears as a voice low and mean spoke when I came to. Welcome to paradise. Jose, 92 years old. Yes, I've heard of that place. I've heard of prisoners there, treated poorly, many years, torture. Things are changing. Americans need to give the place back to Cuba. I think when he left, I would give him, if I could, a basic need for the journey: food. The uprooted continues. If only they had asked to come, we might have welcomed them, helped them even in their fight against those who sought to hurt us both. But they didn't ask. They didn't ask for anything. They simply took our lands, our lives, our futures. I could have been their friend, but they made me something else. Rodolfo, 53 years old. My knowledge about the place is limited. I believe that we, the people of Cuba, do not really know exactly what happens there. I know there is torture at the prison. I know that most of the prisoners were not terrorists. The Americans should close this place, give it back to Cuba. We must wait and see. There's not enough information in the media. Cuba wants it back. I'm not optimistic. Before he leaves, I would want him to know he has a friend, to show my solidarity, and give him a proper saludo. The uprooted is pensive. Over the years I spent here, I regularly wondered if you ever thought of me, the invisible guest. Here but not here in a land I have come to know only through the books I have read about it from behind the walls. I read about how you too suffered at the hands of the capitalists. I read about the revolution you fought to take back your future, but like us, unsure of what that future would look like. I read also about the green moisture and guava-scented air that they say still hangs thick across these islands that once floated free before the arrival of the Europeans. Angel, 49 years old. That place belongs to the Cuban people. We do not want that prison on our land. I know they have been trying to close it, but so far we see nothing has changed. Imagine the implications for Cuba, so many prisoners not charged with a crime, innocent, locked away and treated like that on our land. The place should be closed, given back to Cuba. I would like to give him a book if I could. Here, I'll show you. The Uprooted seeks within his own words an image to help him see the islands as they must have looked then, of himself as a Siboney hunter-gatherer standing on the shore as conquistador ships swiftly move towards him. But all he sees is the exercise yard he is now standing in, where he spends an hour 3 times a week, alone, stretching his broken spirit towards the sky and trying to lift his already buried bones from the earth. This yard is the closest I have come to freedom in 12 years. This square of concrete beneath my feet, these walls of chain link fence around my body, and that heavy patch of blue above my head. I ask you, what can a man do with this kind of freedom, except wish he never had it? Francisco, 68 years old. The place is illegal, an occupation. America uses invasion to solve problems. Things may not be the best that they could be here, but we try to deal with issues in different ways, not using war. America is always just invading places and trying to justify their actions to the world. I think I would give him a painting, somehow reflecting being free. However, as the Uprooted stares up at the sky, the pain that had settled across his face slowly passes to reveal a sad, thoughtful smile gently taking shape upon his lips. But some mornings, he continues, when the wind is blowing just right, I can hear the birds singing from the other side of these whitewashed walls. Some mornings, when the sun is shining just right, I can see her face in the clouds. Some mornings. Regina, 38 years old. I do know a little about the place, but I do not know much. The prison there, about what happened to them, the prisoners inside. He should know what he experienced there is not the real Cuba. I would like, if he could, to walk freely in Cuba. And when he left, I would give him a kiss on the cheek. Returning to his room, the Uprooted becomes nervous. The funny thing is, he says, I always wanted to go somewhere, to leave behind the dust and the mud in search of a better life. But my dream of migration traveled a different route, one that didn't leave behind my family, that didn't make me an enemy to humanity, and that didn't pass through this place smelling of vinegar and violence. I have heard they will send me from this place, but not home. Rather to a country where they say I will have a house, a job, where they say I will be free. But what will I do with freedom in a land where my familyless future is written in a foreign tongue? What if I said I wanted to stay here with you, that I would like for you to know if my skin burns the same beneath your bright sun, to see if my footprints last as long in your wet sand, to build our uncertain futures together in peace? Would you let me stay? Pedro, 58 years old. I've heard there are prisoners from many different countries in that place. Is he in prison for being a terrorist against the United States? Cuba does not give asylum to terrorists. If he's given asylum somewhere, I imagine it must be other countries. If he is not guilty, the decision to stay in Cuba is up to the government. The Americans called us terrorists once. If he stayed, it would be nice if he had some local clothes. I would give him that. The Uprooted thinks about his life beyond the walls of this place, but he can't see it clearly. He can't imagine a future where this place ceases to exist. Yenei, 40 years old. There's not much that I know about that place. I have heard prisoners are leaving. I think the only thing that I could give is to remove what has happened to him, to be able to empty it from his mind. He begins to think about all that he has seen with his own eyes, all that he has memorized in his own mind and all that he has felt upon his own skin. He tries to imagine the ship that might carry him away from this place, across unsure waters to a new land, a new life. But no matter how tightly he squints his eyes, he can't see the shore. He imagines all of the humans crossing borders today, forced by wars and the smallness of men to traverse lands and sail seas. He thinks about the names they are called: migrants, terrorists, refugees, detainees, opportunists, asylum seekers. It's enough to label them, to pity or vilify them. He sadly thinks aloud, will we ever truly be free from what we have known and from how others attempt to know us? He contemplates the millions who are fleeing their homes, floating through time and space, adrift on the waters that carry their unwanted lives back and forth between an idea and an experience. And it is only now, at this very moment, that the uprooted realizes how for him and for so many others, there may never be a shore. That's it. Thank you.
Check into another world. Atlantis, the Palm Dubai.
On the plane right here, there was an advertisement on the in-flight entertainment system for the Atlantis Hotel Resort in Dubai. It ended with the words, "Turn the cold weather into sun and fun," and depicted a smiling white family splashing around at a seashore, framed by the hotel behind them, gleaming in Photoshop sunshine. In Terminal 1 at Dubai International Airport, a long corridor connects arrival gates to customs and immigration, replete with a procession of overhanging plasma screens, all of them at this very moment displaying in unison the same Atlantis advertisement. In it, more beautiful, generic vacationers have miraculously taken flight, circling the neighborhood of Jumeirah in an undulating swarm. They are at once drones, locusts, empire. They descend on Atlantis, undressing as they land, smiling bleached white smiles all the while, just like the profiteers, journalists, and curators before them. Some of them are here for a short while, perhaps to write exposés and open letters about their encounters with capitalism, as though mirrors didn't exist. Some of them are here to find locals with parlor tricks, to bring back with them when they go home to places like New York. Some of them will stay a while and start to call themselves expatriates, so as to not be confused with folks from Asia or with folks who have no means or place to repatriate themselves back to. Deepak Unikrishnan from Abu Dhabi writes in Gulf Return, "In a labor camp, Somewhere in the Persian Gulf, a laborer swallowed his passport and turned into a passport. His roommate swallowed a suitcase and turned into a little suitcase. When the third roommate, privy and vital to the master plan, ran away the next morning with the suitcase and the new passport, he made it past the guard on night duty, made it on the morning bus to the airport, past the board ticket agent at check-in, past security, past pat-down, and a rummage through his suitcase, past using the bathroom once, twice, thrice, to pee, to shit, to sit, past duty-free, where he stared at chocolates and booze and magazines and currencies, past families eating fast food in track suits or designer wear, past men and women sleeping on the floor, past his present, past the gold in the souks, the cranes in the sky, petrol in the air, dreams in his head, past God and the devil, the smell of mess halls, past humidity and hot air, past it all, until he found an empty chair in the departures lounge, where he sat and held his future in his palms. It was then the little suitcase sprouted legs and ears, and the passport developed palms and long fingers, as well as a nose and a mustache. And soon after boarding call, at the very moment the stewardess checked his documents, the third laborer was asked to wait. A half hour or so outside Dubai, there's this place called Dubai Land. It was supposed to be a theme park, the state as buy-in spectacle. Today, it's remembered as one of the many projects that didn't make it through the recession. I drove there last week, led by Google Maps algorithm and Middle American accent. Exit on Interchange 1. Continue on E66 Dubai Al Ain Road. On approach, Google no longer knew what to do, demanding, turn right, turn right, turn right, turn right. This destination was not to be arrived upon, but rather only to be circled in increasing proximity to, at the scale of infinitely reducing fractals, always above zero and beyond arrival, always withholding some small amount of ambiguity for safekeeping. This may also be referred to as gulfing, or the Weigeist, or the condition in which you know you will always need a visa in order to go home. About locating gulfs, Raja'a Khalid from Dubai writes in Arm of an Ocean or a Sea. Cursory research into gulfs reveals that the Gulf of Mexico and the Persian Gulf are the two most widely recognized gulfs in the world. Both gulfs are major sources of oil for America, and the discoveries of both by European explorers are steeped in narratives that are frequently contested by new scholarship. Here, we are interested in the latter Gulf, Vasco da Gama's Gulf. This amorphous Gulf is also the Gulf of my belonging, or unbelonging. In a footnote, Raja adds, much historical scholarship employs the name Persian Gulf, hence the usage here. There is, of course, a contentious naming dispute, but since so many of us here are neither Arab nor Persian, it is difficult to tell where one's sensibilities should lie. So, I will proceed to use only the term Gulf. In December 2012, Dubai's government announced plans for what was then called the Dubai Creek Extension Project, now called Dubai Canal. The creek, cutting inland from the Gulf into the peninsula at Port Rashid, separates Deira and Garhoud from Burdubai, Satwa, and the newer interchange neighborhoods farther southward. The creek is also where many of Dubai's founding myths of merchant trade and pirate frontiers are rooted, and its extension effectively extends its history, cutting further inland before carving out south around Burj Khalifa, then west, pouring back out into the Gulf. This cut will soon render neighborhoods like Jumeirah, my neighborhood, an island separated from mainland Dubai by another new gulf. Ahmed Makia from Garhoud writes in Dubai Creek as an Island City-State. Urban works in Dubai are distinguished by a development in the dark approach. Projected images, in this scenario, are realized on vacant land. This empty or nothingness image of Dubai has become vital for the city's marketing, in which its grandness appears most powerful, juxtaposed with emptiness, giving rise to the decontextualized narrative of the city. What is particularly new about the canal project is how it transgresses discourse around Dubai as a fixed geographical entity. Rather, the project purports that unique and often ephemeral territorial configurations, such as special economic zones, enclaves, and islands, might be a more useful vocabulary. It also exemplifies Dubai's detachment from its hemispheric and geopolitical position. In contrast to the region's Arab heritage, Dubai has a significant number of people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Iran, and the Philippines, and any street-level acquaintance of the city will tell you that Arabness in Dubai is mainly mobilized as motif and a silhouette of power. Once the canal project is complete, could we imagine the new Dubai island as its own nation city-state, untethered to the Federation? Will Dubai, too, have identitarian distinctions between mainlanders and islanders? But more pressingly, as the creek crawls ever closer, I wonder if my neighborhood eat and drink cafeteria, soon to be a whole landmass away, will still deliver. After all, it is often in Dubai's cafeterias, its fast food restaurants, and across its home delivery hotlines, where late-night conversations like this take place, where we wait for food and we talk while we wait, where patois and accent are born to speak about belonging in the Emirates. 600-52-2252. Thank you for calling KFC Delivery Center. To continue in Arabic, press 1. To continue in English, press 2. Even here, gulfs and islands. To place a new order, press 1. To follow up your order, press 2. Press 1 and another inflection appears. The mystic gulf of home delivery hotline holding music, that invisible orchestra of modernity, syncopation to liminality, waiting music for waiting people in waiting places, like in so many airports and hotels. At KFC, the orchestra plays Amanda by Aisha Duo. Deepak Unikrishnan, still from Abu Dhabi, writes in Places, I pretend to have answers. At the Ramada, Arabia's Yoda I become, hosting impromptu Arab 101, sharing my worldview with newfound friends. My thoughts roam rudderless, our sessions infused with the kind of randomness I associate with pub banter. I predict more violence. I divulge what kind of cars Emiratis like to drive, their love for the Chevrolet Caprice. I tell them how hot Abu Dhabi gets in the summer. I speak of Operation Desert Storm, led by Stormin' Norman. I mention CIA-ISI collusion. I conjugate longer sentences to feel smarter, even changing my TV-influenced accent from time to time. I don't tell them the muezzin's call for prayer takes me back home in a heartbeat, and that cool-looking hijabs sometimes turn me on. 2 weeks after, I make friends with the Egyptian, a street cart vendor whose real name is Muhammad. He is the only Muhammad I know in this city whose other name is not Mo. The halal guy, my co-workers call him. His lamb is delicious. He has actual tahini, proper white sauce, not mayo, pretending to do what it clearly cannot. We make small talk. Abu Dhabi is all he says to me. Abu Dhabi, I nod. He quizzes. I smile. Ah, you must miss Arabic, he says in Arabic, without missing a beat. I am sorry, I say, in Arabic. I don't speak it. Muhammad looks at me and turns towards the sizzling meat. A lot of money in Abu Dhabi, he says genially, while the onions caramelize. Not for everyone, I correct him, thinking of my parents. Then we say little. The quiet buys both of us time. He's trying to figure me out, but he lets me pretend I am Arab while I wait for my food. Somewhere in the universe is a constellation of photographs depicting kids wrapped in kandura, performing impromptu living room aspirations for when they might be permitted to stay. In other photos, in which the kids look terrified or confused, they visit the homelands of their parents for the first time. Other photos depict them framed by Dubai's bygone landmarks. They'd look like vacation photos, except vacations rarely last longer than landmarks. Neha Vora writes in From Golden Frontier to Global City. For some, citizenship is more flexible than for others, and differently situated subjects develop different values and understandings of membership and exclusion, the multiple logics of belonging that circulate in Dubai. Open since 1984, Eat and Drink Cafeteria in Jumeirah on soon-to-be Creek Wassel Road is where we set the stage for our final inflection of Gulf. Menu, page 12, reads, Special Sandwiches, Super Burger, Kentucky Fame, Chicken Burger, Dubai Burger, Double Burger, Khalij Burger, and, more importantly, menu item number 188, Hassan Matar. Every decent, self-respecting cafeteria has a Hassan Matar, and in each, Hassan assumes wildly different appearances and ingredients. More ambiguous are the gulfs in its history. Some claim Hassan was named after a charismatic cafeteria owner, perhaps the purveyor of Ijaza cafeteria in Jumeirah. Others say Hassan was named after a long-time neighborhood patron, or a crestfallen football star traded from Qatar in the 1970s. No one can quite remember who Hassan is, or where Hassan is from, or where else Hassan might go, if not Dubai. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Tang Dixin is my name. Pay attention to the screen and don't care about me. And I just wanna step on you. Yes.
Orang lain ke? Ngalahin ke ni? Island アイランド何？アイランド。
海滩。
アイランド。
Island.
うん。
Okay.
アイランド何？
叫芦苇。
叫ルイ。
芦苇。怎么讲？日文。
汚い。
汚い。
だって汚い。
Okay. This, can you, and so, the whole, you inside, you inside, and I cover, and then I lock. You you are in the hole, like this, cover, and I cover you, and you just sound, yeah, the今天maybe not. We have not enough time.
So, Genius 21st Century Seattle is a platform, an exhibition, a project, and a microsite presently at the Fry Art Museum in Seattle. And it's situated within a curatorial and museum practice that assumes that its most basic assumptions are suspect. And one of these assumptions is that an art museum is dedicated solely to the visual arts. And instead, Genius assumes that the art museum has intellectual and curatorial responsibilities for all disciplines. And in so doing, it recalls the radical abandonment of the visual object as a sole means of discourse by artists of the Munich secession in the late 19th century. It recalls secessionist embrace of music, literature, dance, philosophy, science, architecture, design, adornment of the body, and political action. And it recalls seminal essays by composer Richard Wagner in 1849, Art and Revolution, and the Artwork of the Future, that urged artists of his day to pursue the Gesamtkunstwerk, or the great united artwork, which must gather up each branch of art, end quote. 170 years later, in the 21st century, Genius enacts this aspiration. The museum becomes a great united artwork, a secessionist pandemonium, agnostic and promiscuous, and embracing all disciplines. An antidote against ideological and categorical certitude, and a user guide for persevering in conditions of extreme constraint. Over a period of 16 weeks on and adjacent to the campus of the Fry Art Museum, Genius is taking the form of more than 25 commissions and premieres in all disciplines. Alex Schweder's Hotel Rehearsal is a portable project that drives between parking lots, rehearsing hotelness and single room occupancy, SROs, in a comment on the discrepancies and disappearance of affordable housing and Seattle's crisis of homelessness. This is Annie, Han, and Daniel Mihailo of Lead Pencil Studio, who created an earthwork titled Thereafter in an empty gravel lot behind the museum that will degrade during Genius with the onset of winter rains. And I quote from them, "Equal parts homage, abstraction, and reenactment, this abject monument serves as a reflection on a landscape in perpetual alteration." And here on the left are actual so-called regrades from 1910 in Seattle. Within the museum walls, there are immersive installations, projections, objects, and this is a video projection titled Avatar, Fanon and Decker by C. Davida Ingram, who describes it as, quote, a dreamscape of black female subjectivity ascending unfettered. Another slide from the same work. This is Zoe Juniper's We Were. It's an ode to the body's memory, a collaboration between a visual artist and a choreographer. And Sutton Beres Color, You Always Leave Me Wanting More. And the Now I'm Fine project by Zia Mohajasbi, Charles Mudedi, and Michael Sayworth, filmmakers, writers, producers, in collaboration with the jazz musician Aha Moluhu, a visual, what they call a visual and sonic synthesis and remix of creative relationships. Art critic Jen Graves referred to this work in her review of Genius and the Stranger when it opened. I quote, "This is the twilight," Charles Mudedi said, referring to the fact that Seattle is getting whiter as money pushes out people of colour and artists. There's a whole room of film and songs depicting the sunset of places like the defunct African cabaret Hidmo, a pre-Reformation Broadway hosting the homies of Sir Mix-a-Lot and the Mix himself, and the green grass, low-income, landmark housing project, Yesler Terrace, which is now being demolished. Within the museum walls and the galleries, there are also over 40 occasional temporary artworks, durational rehearsal performances, collaborations across disciplines, film and literary festivals, music, dance, theatre, video exhibitions, workshops, manifestos, and a citizens' forum on Seattle's future. Genius relinquishes the notion of an exhibition that does not change and has a beginning and an end. Instead, it performs a living exhibition in constant transformation. Genius simulates and embodies artistic practice constructed on collaboration, interaction, desire, and tentacles that penetrate traditional silos of discipline, practice, and interpretation. Again, Zoe Juniper's installation and durational performances, We Were. In one of the first reviews of Genius when it opened 1 month ago, Sarah Margalise Pineo wrote in Daily Serving, to integrate the work seamlessly, the Fry's galleries have been transformed into a series of encounters between the material and the ephemeral, between white cube and black box. In Zoe Juniper's We Were, cylinders of white string hang from the ceiling to the floor, perforating the dark gallery with illuminated columns of light. Projections of dancers ripple across the surface of the threads, creating a compelling vision that is ghostly and undulates as if projected onto the surface of rain. Ephemerality is inherent in the piece, residual memories of an embodied physical experience retained as short-lived sensorial fissions. She continues, themes of theatricality and performance are also addressed by the collective implied violence, whose terrifying architectural appendage, the Dorothy K. Large Claw, serves as a site for a rich schedule of screenings, readings, and performances. And here we see the public watching 3D drawings by Jim Woodring under the claw. Margalise Pineo further observed that there's something uncannily aggressive about the works of implied violence here and Sutton Bearer's colour, that like a number of other projects on view point to Seattle as the subject of escalating frustration, end quote. One of the most interesting aspects of experiencing Genius live is the extent to which the public, without explicit instructions to do so, perform with the works of art in Genius. It's especially true for Zoe Juniper's We Were, whose performative DNA, announced and unannounced durational performances that last up to 5 hours, are intuitively enacted upon by museum goers, especially children and the young, who enter the transparent cylinders like rain, lie on the ground, and make virtual love to the figures projected on the cylinders, becoming themselves a surface for projection. Returning to her review of Genius, Jen Graves proposed that it was, quote, built to defy depiction, with artists ranging from drag queens to jazz trumpeters to the guy who runs Fantagraphics. This is Jim Woodring standing in front of this work called, one of the series called Frank in the Third Dimension, but I didn't bring any glasses for you, I'm afraid. The extremities of Genius are no clearer than the inclusion of ballet by a ballet, the Pacific Northwest Ballet, with a commissioned work by dancer, poet and choreographer Ezra Thompson, and a citizens forum on Seattle's future as two of the disciplines it encompasses. Jen Graves noted again, genius contradicts itself. It is large, it contains multitudes, as Walt Whitman would say, but the greatest contradiction is that it's shockingly coherent. Nobody told the artist what to do, and yet the starting exhibition, the one that fills the museum today, is all about one thing, really. Jen Graves noted again, genius contradicts itself. It is large, it contains multitudes, as Walt Whitman would say, but the greatest contradiction is that it's shockingly coherent. Nobody told the artist what to do, and yet the starting exhibition, the one that fills the museum today, is all about one thing, really, the flux state of Seattle. You can't walk a block without coming upon a sidewalk closed sign or feeling the chill of a scaffolding shadow fall upon your shoulders, or coming face to face with the relentless charm of a restaurant that wasn't there yesterday. This is one part of Victoria's Haven's work through the window of her condemned studio. It's the 10th. It's the 10th studio that she's lived in that's condemned and that she's going to have to leave soon. She's filming through the window of her studio over a period of 8 months, and the images are being constantly updated during Genius. This is another work by Lead Pencil Studio. It's a collaborative drawing called Under the Surface. The heart of Genius is Sonic Architextile, a collaboration by Nepsidhu Left and Ishmael Butler of Shabazz Palace's right. Both are musicians and both are members of the Black Constellation, a loosely aligned collaborative of musicians and artists, most of whose members live in Seattle. Sonic Architextile is an unfortunately all too rare celebration of the life of Malcolm X in 2015, the 90th anniversary of his birth and the 50th anniversary of his assassination. It consists of this installation titled Malcolm Smile by Nepsidhu, which he describes as, I quote, a manifestation that continues to remind us of the fantastic, the light, the universal, and his smile. The installation is accompanied by ecdysis, that means the shedding of old skin, a musical composition by Grammy Award winner Ishmael Butler, as I said, of Shabazz Palaces. In Butler's words, with Malcolm X in mind, these telepathic conversations usurp the prevail of white noise, landing on feelings and tones vestigial, and advancing an alternative to the hegemony of the individual and its device. As the title of this collaborative work emphasizes, Sonic Architextile, it reflects a 21st century artistic practice that conflates performance, language, sound, music, architecture, fabric, craft, visual art, political and civil action, as well as dress and adornment. Some previous collaborations by Butler and Sidhu include record covers and adornment for performances by Shabazz Palaces. Here, head adornment constructed with a mask made out of bullets for Ishmael Butler. 21st century artists have global reach. As we've heard today, they tell stories of the uprooted and the he, she who are embraced by violence, and a Dubai that is suddenly constructing yet another gulf. They are deserving of institutions and support structures that match their own erasure of traditional categories and boundaries, and a willingness to embrace the most difficult topics and issues that we all collectively face. And in conclusion, I'd like to note that the more than 65 artists participating in Genius, including the Fry Art Museum itself, were selected over 13 years by Seattle's artistic community as recipients of the Stranger Genius Award. That means that the curators of the exhibition, Erica Dalia Massakoy and I, did not select the artists in the exhibition. We presented the awardees of the Stranger Genius. And with Genius 21st Century Seattle, the Fry Art Museum is artist, platform, project, and performs its inquiry into the role of the museum and the curator in the 21st century. Thank you.